we bring to you Radical Dreamers. In our last session, we finished all of Chrono Trigger. Um, for those of you who are not familiar with Chrono Trigger, who might be tuning in for the first time, it's an old game for the Super Nintendo. Radical Dreamers is a spiritual sequel to it that is not 100% canon anymore because it did eventually get a sequel a few years later. However, a lot of the elements of it are still remaining in the plot of Chrono Cross, and therefore, for the sake of completion of the series, we're going to go through Radical Dreamers, and we can obviously use it to compare and contrast whenever we get to Chrono Cross. So yeah, that's the objective for today. See how far we can get through that. It is somewhat of a visual novel style, a lot of reading with pictures on backgrounds. So we'll see how that plays out. Should be interesting. But yeah, everybody else, hey Zeranis, hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope everybody else might be having a good day. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say, so we're just gonna go ahead and get into the game. Now I need to move these alert boxes, because they are probably going to get in the way of the text. That should be better. Hey, Caledon. Hope you're having a good day. So yeah, I don't know how exactly this is going to go down. I've never experienced Radical Dreamers before. No idea what to expect. It all began with a notebook my mother handed me. She told me she found it when cleaning out the closets. This old notebook, covered with mold, was a diary that belonged to my grandfather who passed away years ago. It contained his distant memories. I wonder if you still remember when we first met in our many adventures. It all seemed like a dream. We ran like the wind during those warm summer days long ago. You were a piece of a star that fell from the sky. I can still relive the memories of those days long past, just by closing my eyes like so, and whispering your name into the desolate night. Kid. Kid. I did to say, this is literally how the game boots up, so I don't know if this is an intro screen or just goes directly into the game. Kid. Hey, kid! Oh, I see, so it's like reading the book, and then it's like, you know, they close their eyes and then they start seeing the scene. Are you ready, kid? I know you're anxious, but stay on your toes. Yeah, likewise, mate. You mess up and I'm leaving you behind. Got that, Surge? Kid is a character that is included... Well, Kid and Surge are the two main characters of Chrono Cross. Come on, Magil, let's go. That bastard Lynx is gonna get what he deserves. Say your prayers, not that it'll do you any good. Kid's character, Kid is the blonde-haired girl in this photo, and in the game of Chrono Cross, her character is portrayed extremely like British accent. So we'll see how I do with that long term. But yeah, that apparently is entirely just the intro. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that's all going to go down. So this game was originally for the Satellaview, which was a satellite plugin for the... Okay, can I... There we go. Start button works. Um, it was originally for the Satellaview, which was a satellite connection for the Super Nintendo that only came out in Japan. So this is actually the first official Western version of the game. There was a fan translation a long time ago, and it being kind of a visual novel, obviously you can just kind of read it, but it's not the same experience. But we'll see how this goes. So there is an auto text feature, menu, sound settings, escape menu. Okay. Don't need to know the keyboard controls because that sounds painful. And yeah, we're just gonna keep Surge. Because why would we change the canon character's name? The old lady's tip-off was right on the money. The counterspell and the barrier around the outer walls could have done a real number on us. Kid's plain, unadorned braid flicked back and forth across her shoulders as she walked. We picked our way through the elaborate lattice to find of the manor's magic shields, moving in closer and closer to Lord Lynx's stronghold. There were 3 of us, Kid, Magill, and me. I guess it must have been 3 years already since I first met Kid. Back then I was just a wandering musician, traveling wherever my feet would take me, and wherever a few tunes would pay for a warm bed. I will say, from what I know of Chrono Cross, that is completely different. The Surge, the main character, is not a musician in Chrono Cross. It was in the Outlands, in a town called Regiora, where we first ran across one another. And since then, she dragged me along on a whole bunch of adventures. And misadventures, too. Ah, Kid. She was a thief. And not just any thief. Just a few months shy of 17 and already renowned as one of the realm's greatest. What's more, she was achingly beautiful, stylish, a joy to be around, and a dab hand campsite cooking, or so she liked to claim. The truth was a little different. Those bandits with hearts of gold you've heard about in stories, the ones who steal from the rich to give to the poor, yeah, that wasn't Kid's style. She was short-tempered, prone to lying, bossy, and obsessed with money, and rarely did she care to listen to a single word anyone said to her. She wasn't all bad. Probably. Maybe. Sometimes. She had her moments, anyway. I glanced over my shoulder to see a shadow hovering behind us, blending into the darkness like smoke. Magill. Also known as Magill the Shade. He was Kid's partner, but even after 3 years, I still hardly knew anything about him. All I knew is that he was around 30 years old and not much of a talker, but he was one heck of a mage. I heard that he and Kid had started working together way before I met her. He always covered the top half of his face with a mask, and I'd never seen what he looked like underneath. He was a man so mysterious that it sometimes seemed like he was an interloper from another world. It wasn't like Kid was exactly big on details about her past, but Magill, he might as well not have had one. And Kid didn't seem to know much about her partner in crime either. What kind of man he was, what kind of life he'd lived before, nothing. You might ask how exactly I wound up being a part of this merry band. Well, it's complicated. I guess you could say that life always doesn't turn out the way you think it will. Kid, who was heading up our little raiding party, suddenly stopped dead. Look lively, boys. We've got company. We glanced around warily as cold, cruel eyes emerged from the darkness. I heard a low growl. Dark shadows prowled through the night, surrounding us. Yeah, Zeronis, Magill is definitely not Magus. Like, the way he just, like, poofs off and has amnesia at the end of the, like, add-on content to Chrono Trigger. Yeah, definitely not supposed to be the same character. Yeah, it's a little bit more obvious, I think, in the art that they showed on that previous screen with the blue hair and everything. But like all three of these characters are characters that exist in Chrono Trigger. It's just the story's not exactly the same, and it's like a much shorter segment of this plot. A pack of wildcats. There must have been about 10 of them. A thrill of fear ran down my spine. That is a weirdly written line. A thrill of fear. Those are not two things I compare normally. Thrill I usually refer to as an enjoyable feeling. Flustered, I pulled my knife from my belt. Kid calmly shifted into a fighting stance. Watch yourselves. I don't reckon these buggers have been tested for rabies. The wildcats snarled and growled as they slowly closed in on us, drawing the noose tighter and tighter. I'm sorry, I just realized this is a fantasy. Like, it's fantastical, there's magic and everything, but they just straight up said, I don't think they've been tested for rabies. As if that was a normal thing to expect in a world where magic exists. Their eyes glinted in the darkness like fireflies, and strings of eager spittle dripped wetly to the ground. Then one of them sent an almighty roar soaring to the moon, and the hunt was on. What was I going to do? Oh! Okay. This is straight up the Chrono Cross battle theme right here. Oh god! Kid dived into the thick of the pack of wildcats and gave the darts they remember an almighty kick in the chops. I'm actually timed on that input! The startled beast gave a yelp as it was sent flying. I turned to my right to see that a nearby wildcat was charging towards me, its head lowered menacingly. Panicked, I tried to make a last-second dodge, but I wasn't quite fast enough. Its claws scraped against my side as it rushed past me. I winced in pain for a moment, then turned to face my foe and readied myself. I struck at it wildly. I slashed at a nearby wildcat with my knife. The beast tried to leap clear, but I was already too close. I felt the blade make contact and was roared with a screech of pain. The wildcat jumped away, this time managing to put some space between us. It looked like I hadn't cut it very deeply. I stood my ground, changing my grip on the knife and waiting for another chance to attack. Surge, behind you! Panicked by Kid's warning, I whirled around and came face to face with a pair of eyes blazing like wild hellfire. I defended myself. It wasn't time to do anything but try and protect myself. In a moment of sheer desperation, I crossed my arms to guard my face. Instantly, I felt the wildcat's fangs sink into my exposed wrist. It had thrown itself bodily at me, bowling me over backwards. Ah! My arm still in its powerful jaws, the wildcat pinned me to the ground and shook its head. I tried desperately to free myself, but it was clamped onto me like a bear trap, and there was no way of getting loose. The sound of fang on bone was sickening. But just then, the creature recoiled with a screech. Kid had buried her knife deep into its gut. I quickly capitalized on its terror by giving it an almighty kick. Free of the wildcat, I staggered to my feet, holding the throbbing wound on my arm. I was breathing heavily. The handle of my knife was slick with sweat and tightened my grip. With a kick like a bolt of lightning, Kid landed a clean hit on the flank of a nearby wildcat. It staggered before losing its footing, letting out a pathetic cry, but Kid had already moved in to finish it off. And then the roar of fire, a burning smell, filled my nostrils, and next to me, a shrill screech pierced the air. Magiel's fire spell engulfed the head of a nearby wildcat. It fled, darting off into the darkness like an arrow. I scanned the area. Only moments ago we had been surrounded, but now there wasn't a single wildcat left. Kid and Magiel had either sent the rest off with their tails between their legs, or paid to them once and for all. Is that just a very strange usage of that word that I don't recognize? Put paid to them once and for all? Oh, it's a British slang to literally mean to put an end to or to terminate. Never have heard that before in my life. Today I learned. Ha! You're dreaming if you think a pack of flea-bitten moggies is gonna stop us, Lynx! Kid crossed her arms and flashed a triumphant grin. Meanwhile, I was panting heavily in it, felt like my legs were about to give out from under me. I collapsed to my knees, overwhelmed by what I'd just been through. Phew. I'd taken a few hits, but I was fine otherwise. A couple of scars to talk about later, maybe, but nothing that would stop me carrying on. Are you hurt? Magil looked down at me, his face expressionless as ever. No worries, Mag, he'll be alright, said Kid, barging in to set a better look at me. He may be a whining sook, but it'll take him more than a few scratches to kill this one. She was nothing if not sympathetic. But she was right, this was no time to be bemoaning my lot. We hadn't even reached the manor yet. I dabbed at my wounds with a tincture-soaked cloth and wrapped them with bandages, then looked up at the other two. We're just getting started. I grinned back, putting a brave face on things. That's what I like to hear, Kid cheerily announced from close quarters. But then her eyes turned cold, like the cool glow of moon in the night sky. It's gonna be a long night. I nodded, trying my hardest not to utterly lose myself in her pale blue eyes. This is mildly creepy, I'm not gonna lie, like... Kid has always been 17, even in Chrono Cross. But, like, the fact that she's, like... Her character model reminds me a lot of Riku in Final Fantasy X. Like, very similar character designs. And just like Riku, Riku's relatively young. But, like, the fact that we're not even, like, 20 minutes into this, and it has mentioned that she is beautiful, and now it's mentioned that he's trying not to lose himself in the pale blue eyes. It's just like, oh, this is mildly uncomfortable. Alright, let's get this show back on the road. She turned away and marched off deeper into the trees without looking behind to see if me and Magil were following her. Magil, of course, was already right behind her, his unhurried gait making it seem as though nothing much had happened at all. I jumped back up to my feet to chase after them. I'd be in for even more trouble than I'd bargained for if I got separated from them. The dark forest inside the manor's perimeter seemed to go on forever, a labyrinth of trees and boulders. The manor itself loomed in the distance, lowering over vast grounds, and hidden within was a veritable mountain of treasure, just waiting for us. Lord Lynx was the noble who ruled the remote territory of Regiora. He was also Kid's mortal enemy. We were there that night to steal a certain jewel he kept locked away in his most closely guarded vault, the Frozen Flame. The Frozen Flame was veiled in mystery. It was said to be imbued with an uncanny energy, and possessed of a beauty and clarity that made it a priceless treasure. Countless thieves have tried to steal it, and not one of them had come close to succeeding. Nor had any of them escaped the manor alive. And now it was our turn to try to sneak into this place of death. Led by a girl who had the ambition to make the impossible possible, a hunger for vengeance that drove her onward, and a desire for riches that could never be satisfied. As we pressed on through the tree-filled darkness, the shadows gave way at last, revealing the true extent of the vast mansion. Very pretty castle on a nice moonlit night. Heh, finally! Say your prayers, Lynx, 'cause we're coming for ya. Keeping to the overgrowth and the shadows of the trees, we made our way around the manor walls in search of a means of entry. Eventually, we came to a terrace overlooking the garden. There was no sign of any guards nearby. The only thing surrounding the manor was an uncanny stillness. This'll lead us straight into the West Wing. It's sounding more Australian than British, but it works. That's fair. Thank you, Zeranis. This will lead us straight into the West Wing. Just as well. We don't have any business in the rest of the manor tonight, said Magil, gazing up at the dark building towering over us in the night. Alright then, what are we waiting for? With that, Kid made to vault over the railing of the terrace. Stop! Magil hissed sharply. Remember what we're here for. Our main target is the vault and the frozen flame within it. We focus on this above all else. Your vengeance is of secondary concern. Agreed? Glancing over her shoulder, Kid replied with a reluctant, Yeah, don't get your knickers in a twist. But if we happen to run into him, I'm gonna knock that Drongo's block off and neither you or anybody else is gonna stop me. I guess Kid was gonna get her way whether we liked it or not. Drongo. Is that an actual slang? That sounds so fun. Oh, they're apparently a member of the Corvid family? It's a bird, but it's slang for somebody who's brain dead, basically. That's funny. I like that term. I'm learning more and more British slang as we go through this. Let's go, boys! The night is young! She cleared the railing with a sprightly hop and vanished inside the manor. I glanced towards Magil and nodded in silence. We followed Kid's lead and were soon inside Lord Lynx's lair. You want to say you've never heard of these slangs in the UK? Well, I mean, the Google said that they were British slangs. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably either old-timey or maybe it is like Aussie because, you know, Aussie tends to be derivative of UK stuff. You know, actually, now that you mention Cockney, it might be more of a Cockney vibe than, like, proper British for Kid in Chrono Cross. I know they did a retranslation whenever they made this, because obviously this is the first Western version of Radical Dreamers, but in Chrono Cross, they kind of toned down a little bit of the accents, because they had a lot of characters who had extremely strong accents, but it's not voice acted. So they're all just like written in text, and some of them were so thickly written with accents that it was hard to tell what they were actually trying to say. Like, I'm pretty sure there was a character in the original who was talking about your mother, and what it said in the text was like Moffah, M-O-F-F-A-H, or something like that. And it was just like, people were like, what is that? But it was like they were just trying to, like, in text describe the way that the person pronounces the words differently. Which works well, as long as it's still distinguishable as a derivative of the original word. And it seems like they may have toned that down in this to being mostly abbreviations of words and slang. But we'll see if that persists when we get to Chrono Cross. The darkness swallowed us whole. A corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It looked equally dark and chilly in both directions. Well, we were going to go to the East Wing, right? I guess let's go right. It has that Final Fantasy XIV translation vibe, you say, Zeranis? Yeah, I can see that. We pressed on through the darkness, down corridors that turned and twisted snake-like this way and that. Everything around us was still and silent. It felt strangely like we were being watched. As if countless eyes... Of course, fuck. Shit. We continued, creeping cautiously down the corridors. Kid moved proudly and stealthily like a cat stalking its prey, while in the shadows Magil followed, gliding swiftly and silently like a sinister breeze. We pressed on into the embrace of the Weaver of Fate. Certain sections are paced, others aren't. Okay, so this isn't paced, so I can talk for a second. At least I don't think it's paced. A short way along the corridor, running from the right-hand side of the terrace, we found an ancient-looking door, again on our right. But yeah, like, a lot of it, they definitely tried to get a very strong vibe. which kind of makes the world feel more dynamic in some ways. And it also makes it feel more ethnic, I guess might be the right term for it. As opposed to, like, you know, everything that's typically localized, it just tends to be, like, localized. I'm actually kind of wondering now, with Kid having this strong accent, and accents being a big thing in the localization of the script, I'm wondering if they use a lot of different... Mysterious blue guy, guy who glides, who could he be? I'm kind of wondering if the Japanese, like the original Japanese, tends to try to be derivative, or if it actually in the Japanese uses different dialects and accents around the Japanese area in some ways. Because I can't imagine that the US localization team decided to just make a whole bunch of different accent vibes for no reason. Kid pressed an ear against it, waiting for any signs of life. Dead quiet. Don't reckon there's anybody in there. Let's go in. In we go. Kid stilled her breath and reached for the handle. The door wasn't locked. It swung slowly open. That felt very old school Resident Evil. What's this room supposed to be? Place is a dump. Kid had poked her head in through the door, taken a quick peek to see if there was anyone inside, and was disappointed by what she found. The room was large and littered with peculiar-looking machinery and knickknacks, all of which were covered in dust and had seemingly been dumped there haphazardly. Everything looked like it had been rusting for a very long time. The ends of the room were completely dark, and it was impossible to tell just how big it was, or even what the walls and floor looked like. It seemed the manor's inhabitants had turned the old clock tower into a makeshift storage space some time ago. I stepped warily inside. Leave that alone. I looked over towards Magill and saw Kid trying to pull something from the shadows. It was a huge sword that appeared to be very old indeed. You don't need that old bludgeon. It'll only get in the way. And as much of an antique as it is, it won't fetch much on the market in that condition. Yeah? Well, how can it might? There's plenty of collectors who just love old bits of junk. Well, some old bits of junk. Pouting, Kid left the sword where she stood. At least she put it back down gently. It was then that we heard a voice from the shadows. And what exactly are you doing here, I just about jumped out of my skin. Who's there? Kid and Magill turned to face the voice, ready for a fight. Zerant, you say you remember something about a character in Attack on Titan who has a southern accent for no reason, compared to everyone else, because the character in the Japanese accent is from a region they seem as being their redneck region? Yeah, so that's the classic Osaka accent. I've seen that in a lot of manga as well. Like, I remember Azumanga Daioh, which is a classic anime and manga. There's a character in there that has an Osaka accent. And, like, that was back in the day whenever, like, translation notes were all over mangas. And the translator actually noted that, like, this character is meant to have an Osaka accent, and therefore we localized it as somewhat of a southern accent to try to show the discrepancy. A wizened crone emerged from the shadows. She was hunched over and wore a hood draped over her face. I could tell at a glance that she wasn't just old, she was positively ancient. It's just some doddery old bag. What do you think you're doing, sneaking up on us like that? Kid's shoulders relaxed as the tension left her body. Magill, however, continued to give the woman a piercing stare. Oh, what an impish little thing you are! Here to visit a friend, perhaps? Not in the dead of night, I suspect. The crone narrowed her eyes. Let's get a closer look at you. Ah, yes, you must be here to get your revenge on Lynx. How did she... My heart jumped. She seemed to know exactly who we were. We were in trouble. What if she sounded the alarm? We'd have to give up on the treasure and run for our lives. What were we gonna do? Yeah, let's play dumb. What's that? You know what you're on about, lady? Kid did her best to play dumb. And she did it well. Mind you, she'd never felt much shame about lying or deceit. I said, can you believe anyone would be so foolish as to challenge the great Lord Lynx? They'd have to be out of their mind! Ha ha ha! Oh ho ho! But seriously, girl, you can't fool me, so don't try. I sensed a sudden steeliness in her voice. At least, I was pretty sure I did. I love how they italicized continued in the second option. We continued to play dumb. Let's come clean. We're caught red-handed. We know what's going on here. So what if we are? Kids narrowed her eyes back at the crone. What's it to you if we're here to get our revenge on old Lynxy boy? You gonna do anything about it? You never change, do you? The crone chuckled madly, her small frame shaking. Ah, the boldness of youth. Yes, that's the spirit. Kid looked at the crone, completely confused. I was... Oh. You what? Kid looked at the crone, completely confused. I was no less mystified. What the heck are you on about? Oh, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago. Yes, it was around that an innocent young thief stole into the manor looking to singe Lord Lynx's whiskers. I feel like I need to have, like, a cane to, like, just, like, at people right now. I'm feeling a very you young old whippersnappers vibe right now. She couldn't have been much older than 10, now that I think of it. Shocked, my gaze turned to Kid. A wet glint appeared in Kid's eyes, but her glare was like ice. It certainly felt as if the temperature in the room had suddenly dropped below freezing. With a chuckle, the crone continued her story, pretending not to have noticed the change in mood. She was an orphan, you know. Came after Lynx to avenge a woman she loved like her own daughter. But all the vengefulness in the world couldn't change the fact that she was only a little girl. She was no match for Lynx's men, sadly, and they quickly captured her. Lynx is the kind of man one would fear to have for an ally, never mind a foe. Had it not been for the timely assistance of a friend of hers, the girl would certainly have been executed. The way the people of the manor told it, the very shadow pitied the girl and rushed in to spirit her away. I wonder how much of the tale could be true. I have nothing but sympathy for those who know failure, of course. You can't win all the time. And sometimes, against all the odds, fate really can be foiled, and the clockwork of history sent into disarray. No, the ones I have no patience for are the ones who do not recognize their failure, or who fail and choose to give up as a result. The crone looked up from under her hood, stared Kid directly in the face, and grinned. Kid's anger faded, giving way to a dumbfounded expression. If you wish to steal the jewel from Lynx, if you truly wish to triumph, you will have to let go of a treasure of your own, Kid. For as long as you cling on to it, the hands of your clock will never move. They'll stay exactly where they came to rest all those years ago. Who are you? Ho ho! Me? I'm just an old bag, like you said. I do apologize. I must have taken up a lot of your time with all my babbling. I'll leave you in peace. Oh, but before I go... The crone turned to face me. You seem to be injured, young man. If you wish, I can take a look at your wounds. With all the attention suddenly turned towards me, I panicked a little. Alright then. Please do. What? Alright then. Please do. The crone muttered a few words as her bony fingers drew sigils in the air. A pale, gentle light began to surround my body, filling me with a strange warmth. Strike a light? That's no ordinary spell! Kid was impressed. I felt my wounds healing, and I heard a nostalgic melody that soothed the wounds in my heart. Before I realized it, the crone was gone. Hey! Hey, lady! Kid strained her eyes, scanning the darkness. But there was no one to be seen, and her calls remained unanswered. Who the bloody heck was that? Kid looked like she'd just woken up on the floor of the Laughing Pig after a few too many. And what does she mean about you having to let go of a treasure? Oh wait, that was probably supposed to be Magil. Well, we won't find any answers here. Time to move on. Magil brought us back down to Earth, emotionless as always. It almost seemed as if he thought nothing had happened at all. Yeah, I guess you're right. Kid walked quickly to the door, keen to move on. Hold it, you! Just as I was about to follow Kid out of the room, she jabbed me in the side with her elbow. You stingy little bugger, Surge! Why didn't you tell her to share some of that healing magic with the rest of us? Classic Kid. The door led back into the corridor, which stretched off to the left and right. Rightward lay the depths of the manor, while the path to our left went back to the terrace. Let's continue to the right. Continuing down the corridor, we came across a rather sturdy-looking door on our left. A little further on stood a stairway leading upward. Well, this door's clearly meant to keep something safe. If there ain't some kind of treasure behind it, my name ain't Kid. Yep, that's the smell of cold, hard cash, all right, she muttered to herself as she began to inspect the door more closely. Let's continue on. The corridor ended at the foot of some stairs. With Kid in the lead, we headed upwards. It was dark and the stairwell was narrow. We watched our footing carefully as we climbed. The stone of the steps was worn smooth with age, and I lost count of how many there were as we spiraled onward and upward. An awful sense of foreboding haunted me. I had no idea why, but it felt as though we were marching to the gallows. When we arrived at the top of the stairs, we were greeted by an old, heavy door, looming in the silence. How does a door loom? All was deathly silent, and the still, clammy air added to the sense of ominous apprehension. Something's very wrong here, I muttered without thinking. I hear cursed whispers from beyond the door, Magil added, doing nothing to lift the mood. Ah, grow up, will ya? Kid shot back at us, derisively. She was already examining the door. Well, it ain't locked, and I don't hear anyone inside. We're coming here for some weird artifact. Let's go inside. Alright, here goes. Kid tried the handle. The door opened, and with a slow, heavy swing, revealed what lay beyond. It also seemed to be like a dead end, so I figured that was, like, the objective. It was a small, cylindrical room that appeared to be the inside of one of the stone towers. It was completely deserted, and there were no windows. What's this supposed to be? Something about this place gives me the creeps. Still standing in the doorway, Kid seemed suddenly taken aback. There might be something in here. Let's take a closer look. Closer look at a bloody empty room? Ha! Might as well, I guess. We did climb all them stairs. Kid stepped through the door, grumbling under her breath. I scanned the room and then noticed something on the floor. The flagstones were covered in dozens of narrow scratches, and in places there were thick, black stains. Something in the stains spoke of a horror that no amount of scrubbing would ever wash away. A malice and a sadness beyond imagining. There's something written here. Crouching in front of a wall, Magill was inspecting some brownish markings that looked like more of the same stains. Someone's carved letters into the wall and scrambled them using blood magic? Kid had gone over to take a look. Looks pretty old. Hard to read, too. Some of it's been worn away. Let's see. I cannot hold out much longer. My only hope now is to leave the Akashian signet in this room. The Akashian signet? Suddenly, the door slammed shut. We jumped to our feet with a start. From above us, we heard an unsettling creaking sound. The walls and floor began to tremble. What the hell's going on? Kid's eyes darted around the room as she desperately tried to figure out what was happening. The creaking sound from above continued, and the ceiling moved ominously closer. Up there! Oh no! Oh, that's coming in fast. Are we gonna die? We've walked right into a bloody trap! Kid bit her lip. We've got to do something and fast. We don't have time to sit and think about this. Let's get the damn door down. Yeah! Kid sprang the door like an arrow, slamming into its shoulder first. It was far too heavy and her light frame bounced right off of it. Damn it! Magill raced towards the door like the wind, smashing into it with ferocious force. It made a creaking sound and shook from the impact, but stood firm. Desperately, I hurled myself at it too. Ugh. The shock of the impact rushed through my body, but it was no good. Meanwhile, the rusty creaking from above continued, as did the ceiling's inexorable journey downward. And to make matters worse, now countless blades were popping in and out. Surge! Magill, this is going to take the three of us! Timing our blows, we all charged the door at once. Once. Twice. A third time. And then the door was open, and we were collapsed in a heap in the corridor outside. What? Behind us, we heard the sound of the bladed ceiling grinding on the stone floor of the tower room. The metallic scraping noise it made was awful. We could only look on in silent horror at the fate we'd so narrowly avoided. The machinery continued for a short while before slowly coming to a stop. It seemed the ceiling trap had finally finished its grisly work. Bugger me, talk about a nasty surprise! Is it some sort of execution chamber? Magill continued, seeming to be deep in thought. In any case, that writing mentioned Akasha. Yeah, what was all that about? I asked. The Akasha Dragoons, the elite knightly order serving General Viper, who once governed the territory of Galesburg to the west. Former knightly order, I should say. They were wiped out more than a decade ago, by the lord of this very manor, no less. Uh-huh. Thanks for the history lesson, Mag. Kid rose to her feet, patting off the desk. Too bad we're not here for fairy tale nights. Come on, we've got a lot more exploring left to do. Magill shrugged silently, and we headed back to the stairs. With Kid in the lead, we headed downstairs. We went down the stairs and continued straight ahead, eventually coming across a sturdy-looking door on our right. I guess this is where we're supposed to go. Kid felt like it was the right thing, but I thought that was a trap. The corridor continued further on back towards the terrace. Let's go inside. Oh, what am I, stupid? Of course it's bloody locked. Kid had tried the door handle a few times before giving it a grumpy kick. Bloody door's got a magical barrier on it, and the bloody barrier's got a barrier of its own to boot. It'll take more than me putting the boot to get through all that. I see. Then unless we find the key, we don't have a hope of getting inside. I reckon I can handle a key hunt, especially if it's that idiot Lynx who's hidden it. If we can find his room, I'll sniff it out in 2 seconds flat, just you watch. There was little more we could do here, so we decided to look elsewhere. Alright, down the corridor and then off to the left. We know this door. This is where the machinery in the old crone was. And let's get back to the terrace. Alright, follow the corridor. We took the corridor leading from the left-hand side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down the stairs, and the path to the left was a dark side passage, and the main corridor continued straight onward. Well, let's go onward. We continued onward, past where the stairs and the side passage emerged into the main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. Let's see if we can go in. Fancy. Kid gently pushed the heavy doors open and peeked inside. Doesn't look like there's anyone in here. Seemed to be the main hall of the manor. There was a massive table, beautiful decorations on the walls, and thick columns decorated with sculptures of birds and beasts. Fixed to the wall in the back towered a tremendous pipe organ, like a burnished black mountain. Dozens of candles provided a dim, flickering light, sending the corners of the room dancing in and out of shadow. Several enormous portraits glowered down from high on the wall. Were these members of Lynx's family? I was busy staring at a painting depicting a young husband and wife when I realized that their eyes had turned to look right at me. Okay, they hadn't. Don't worry. This isn't about to turn into some dumb ghost story. It just looked that way because of the flickering light of the candles reflecting against the glossy oil paints. Obviously. Probably. This place gives me the creeps, and get a load of all these ugly mugs. There's nothing for us here. Let's look somewhere else. Neither Maggle nor I had any objections. We left the hall and returned to the corridor. Alright, so we got the stairs and we have the side passage. Which should we go to first? One thing that I do kind of bothered about this is, like, you never know, like, in a book, when you're reading passages in a book and you see multiple, like, conversation bits back to back, it's very easy to tell that it's switching between two characters. But the fact that sometimes the text has neglected to state a pronoun or a person in line with just a completely brand new chunk of text has made it kind of difficult to tell who's saying some of these lines until, like, 3 lines afterwards, and I'm afraid to, like, continue through to get to that point, because I never know when it's going to go to the next page. And there doesn't seem to be, like, a go back button like there is in a lot of actual visual novels. We kept going straight on. We'd arrived back at the terrace. Let's take the side passage. Going down into the basement doesn't seem like the smartest idea. Leading the group as usual, Kid suddenly stopped. What's that? She dabbed her finger at something in the darkness. Straining my eyes, I could see a pale white bundle of something shaking in the shadows. Huh, that's strange. I moved in front of Kid to try to get a better look. And then suddenly, the strange presence started crawling across the floor towards us at an unbelievable speed. I didn't have time to brace myself. The white figure reached my foot, then reared up to its full height. It was a skeleton! The skeleton and I stood face to face, its empty eye socket staring straight at me, or seeming to, at least. What was I going to do? Retreat! Completely taken by surprise, I staggered 2 or 3 steps backward. The skeleton let out a rasping hiss as it slashed at me with its sword. The tip of the blade grazed my cheek. I was lucky. Had it not been for Maggle pulling me out of harm's way at the last moment, my head would have been rolling on the floor. Thanks, Mag, I mumbled in a daze, sitting awkwardly on the floor after losing my footing. Eat this! Kid's foot slammed into the skeleton after a sweeping attack left it wide open. There was a crunching sound and a clattering of bones as the skeleton was knocked back by the blow. its body split clean in two at the waist. "Better luck next time," muttered Kid dryly. As if in response, the skeleton's upper body picked itself up from the ground, turning its skull towards me. Balancing its body with its left hand, it then pulled the skull from its head with its right hand. "What's it doing now?" Before I could get the words out, it heaved its skull at me. "What's it gonna do?" "Let's catch it." I caught it in both hands. Slammed it in the floor. Slammed the skull to the ground. It smashed to pieces with a satisfying crunch. And as soon as it had, the skeleton's torso collapsed into a lifeless heap. It won't be troubling us anymore. Time to move on. I was doing great. I felt like nothing could stop me. Maybe you ain't such a drongo after all. Just goes to show, any old weirdo can make something of themselves if they put their mind to it. Kid's eyes glinted with mischief. We headed down the side passage. At the end of it, we came to an old, immaculately polished door. Let's go in. Kid gently pushed the door ajar and peeked into the room. The next thing I knew, she'd slipped inside. Magill and I followed. Looks like a study. The room was lit by the moonlight coming in through the long, slender windows, slanting down in pale beams through the darkness. It was pretty big for a study, with an immaculate antique desk dominating the center. I actually really like this piece of art, especially with the subtle animations of the candles. There were rows of bookshelves lined with thick, dusty old tomes. The wall to the rear of the room was decorated with paintings, and shelves of vases and painted plates stood before it. They all seemed to be curios from foreign lands. Might as well check out the desk, we're looking for a key. Went over to the desk and started searching the drawers. There I found a neatly arranged set of pens, ink bottles, and other writing materials. Nothing of interest, in other words. A small portrait on the desk caught my eye. It was a picture of a young girl with a gentle smile on her lips. Who was she? "That's the girl Lynx adopted, if you ask me. Wasn't 'cause he was looking to help the needy," said Kid, peering over my shoulder. She wrinkled her nose in distaste. Not even a looker." Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't a loud knock, but in the bottomless silence of the night, might as well have been a thunderclap. Kid and I stood bolt upright and turned towards it. Magill, meanwhile, hid in the shadows, drifting away like smoke. Panicked, I whispered to Kid. "Hide behind the door, in the shadows! Quick, get behind the door!" We kept our bodies low as we silently and swiftly made for the back of the door, where the shadows would keep us hidden. We pressed our backs to the wall and did our best to still our breathing. Slowly, the door opened. Flickering candlelight spread from the doorway with a warm glow. I held my breath. But it seemed like whoever it was didn't mean to come in. They simply stood there. Strange. I thought I heard something. But the Lord of the Manor is away, of course. Why would there be anyone in here? I have to get over my nerves. Everything was fine until we heard the news that Por was on the move. Por, if you remember, was the southern town of the western continent in 601,000 AD in Chrono Trigger. The figure quietly closed the door, plunging the room back into darkness. The voice trailed off to a whisper. We remained motionless, keeping our ears pricked for any sign of an unwelcome return. All we heard were footsteps, moving away. So Por has made its move. Magill emerged from the shadows, contemplating the news we'd overheard. Kid, if the rumors are true, we might be about to find ourselves in a very difficult situation. This seemed to set her thinking, too. Por was a powerful nation that ruled the southern continent. Interesting. So that means that Lynx is on the northern continent. And this is the southern continent from Chrono Trigger that we're talking about. So, Lynx's castle is in Guardia? Apparently? I'd heard it was a prosperous land whose recent and sudden development had pushed it far ahead of its neighbors. Which made me wonder, what would its inhabitants want here, out in the sticks? They couldn't be after the Frozen Flame too, could they? As valuable as it might be, a jewel was just a jewel in the grand scheme of things. I couldn't imagine it being an item of national interest. I mean, ultimately it was just a pretty rock, right? Let them do what they want. If everyone's busy playing soldiers, they won't be bothering us. Come on, we've got things to do. She headed for the door. We left the room and made our way back down the side passage. We made our way back down the dark side passage leading from the study. Eventually, we arrived back at the intersection. Some stairs led downward, and the corridor branched left and right, with the right branch leading back towards the terrace. We still haven't found the key, so we gotta go downstairs. Slowly, we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. The way to the left continued onto an atrium that resembled a sort of plaza, while the path to the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into darkness. We're not looking for a plaza. We're trying to find a room, so let's go down the passageway. We went down the stairs and took the passage to our right. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right-hand side. Something smelled fresh and pleasant. Flowers? Was it coming from inside? We'll find out. I'm assuming it's probably going to be the person that was in the study. Well, at the study. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around the place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Though the room was richly furnished, somehow it still felt awfully lonely. Kid took a quick look around before commenting, "It's Lynx's girl's room." A half-written letter on the desk and a teacup, still warm, suggested that the lady of the manor was still nearby. But it didn't seem like anyone was here now. We decided to search the room. Some charming flowers, a discarded cotton handkerchief, a small bottle of perfume. I love fucking Magil in the background. Oh, and now it's Surge. And there's Kid. It's a cute little animation. I like it. Nothing that meant much to me, nor anything that seemed particularly valuable. Kids seemed to have the same impression and scanned the room, clearly not expecting to find anything. The only item of note was a small antique box which bore a crest resembling a viper. I decided where to look next. We're picking up that box. I'm assuming that's going to be the Akasha whatever the fuck it was. I picked up the small wooden box on the bookshelf. I gently opened the lid and was greeted by a soothing melody. A music box? There was something about that song. I know this tune. Kid was standing next to me, and I could see something had changed in her expression. You do, huh, Kid? Someone used to sing it to me, a long time ago. She turned her gaze downward and went silent. Kid? Startled, she turned to me. Her eyelashes glistened as if wet with dew. She walked to the door, not saying a word. Hey, Kid, wait up! We left the room. Was she crying? Was Kid crying? Maybe I was just seeing things. The passage outside the room continued to our left and right. Path to our right led deeper into the darkness of the manor. Meanwhile, going left would take us to the atrium and another branch. Yeah, let's go deeper into the darkness. We went down the dark passageway, eventually finding ourselves at a sturdy-looking, immaculately polished door. Kid sniffed at the air. Just as I thought, something stinks here. Reckon we found the beast's lair, lads. In the darkness, Kid's lips twisted into a grin that turned my blood cold. Gotta go inside, that's where the key's gonna be. Kid opened the door and slipped inside. It was Lynx's room, but he didn't seem to be around. Bugger's gone and scarpered off because he heard I was coming. There was something deeply unpleasant about the room. There wasn't anything unusual about the furniture and fittings, not how they looked or how they were made. But taken as a whole, it all felt discordant. Was this a reflection of Lynx? A seemingly ordinary facade that hid a disturbing truth only some could see? Right, I bet we'll find the key to the vault in here, or a clue about where to find it. I started searching through the room. The desk drawers, the paintings on the wall, the vase on top of the side table. I left no stone unturned. There didn't seem to be anything suspicious. But as I scanned the room, something unusual caught my eye. There was a pedestal in one corner, with a significant-looking scarlet cloth drawn over it. Slowly raised my hand towards it. Carefully pulled the cloth away, revealing a mirror. It was old-fashioned in an elaborately decorated style I'd seen before, and in it was reflected a statue of Venus. Suddenly, the eyes of the statue shone with light. It talked. What is your desire? The mirror, it's speaking! Kid and Magiel ran to my side. There's no need for panic, it's a whispering mirror, nothing more, said Magiel flatly. What's one of those? A magical mirror in which a spirit dwells. The spirit can freely move between its own and other mirrors and will share its wisdom with those who ask. Interesting. What should I ask it? Really? Really? Remember how I made that comment about 40 minutes ago about the game being slightly creepy? I'm like tempted to ask this question just to see how creepy it gets. But nah, we're gonna find the key. Do you know where the key to the vault is? Mir's reflection rippled and changed to reveal a room with numerous bookshelves. A deep, sonorous voice spoke. You will find the key in the place I have revealed, the study. It is inside a book with a purple cover in the furthest bookshelf from the door. The image of the study vanished from the mirror and the voice went silent. It appears the spirit is left for another mirror, commented Magiel. To the study, then. As I made to leave the room, a low voice rumbled through the air, stopping me dead in my tracks. Beware. He knows. Was it the voice of the mirror again? What did it mean? Hurry up, or we're leaving you behind, Serge, called Kid from outside. Flustered, I rushed after her. Corridor stretched out beyond the door. We retraced our steps. Eventually we came to an ornate door on the left-hand side. It was Radial's room, Lynx's daughter. We continued on our way. Rattle. Kid stopped us. There's something there. I listened carefully. Rattle, rattle, rattle. A figure appeared in the darkness on the other side of the corridor. It's a skeleton! We readied ourselves for a fight. Thought we destroyed this thing. I assessed the situation. I squared off against the skeleton. It threw the sword it was carrying to the ground and took a step forward. Then it twisted its body into a strange pose. Wait, is it doing what I think it is? proceeded to contort itself further, adopting a shape that could only be described as highly suggestive. For a moment, no one knew quite how to respond. What the bloody hell? What should we... Wait, kid, look at Mag. Magel seemed completely bewitched. There was no way he'd be of any use to us in this state. What were we gonna do? It dropped its sword, let's attack. Come on then! I charged at the skeleton. Took advantage of the opening created when it raised its sword and kicked it as hard as I could in its lower spine. There was an almighty crack as the bone snapped and the skeleton fell in two. A split second later, Kid landed a massive blow on the top half. With its skull shattered, the skeleton immediately came to a halt. Huh, guess you can fight after all. We defeated the skeleton. Kid turned her attention back to Magil. Can't believe this drongo, though. Thwack! She brought her fist down hard on his head. Maybe that'll make you up. Now if we're done here, let's get a bloody move on. What was I? Oh, ow. I was doing great. Felt like nothing could stop me. Maybe I ain't such a drongo after all. Just goes to show, any old weirdo can make something of themselves if they put their mind to it. Kid's eyes glinted with mischief. That feels like a health check window, because like that repeated after both battles. Alright, we finally reached the intersection. We're gonna go the left turn up to the stairs. We can go to the atrium, but we don't have a reason to yet. Let's go get that key. Kid leading the way, we started to climb the narrow staircase. Top, we found another intersection. Taking the corridor to the right would lead us to a dead end with a large door, while the left led to the terrace. Narrow side passage in front of us was open. Let's go down the side passage, back towards the study. At the end of it, we came to an old, immaculately polished door. This was the study. Let's go inside. Right, let's find this key. Light on her feet as always, Kid moved into the center of the room. Where'd the mirror say it was again, Serge? She was asking me? How was I supposed to remember? It was a purple cover. I remember that. Oh my fucking god. I was not expecting this many fucking options. Welp, that's a thing. Shit, was it in the far or the near bookcase? I think it was the far bookcase. I wasn't expecting to, like, actually be offered so many options. I was just like, oh yeah, it was purple, it was on the bookcase, and it was inside the book. Like, I thought that was enough details to remember. I didn't think that near or far was gonna matter. Oops. I guess, worst case scenario, I go for one and then the other. Yeah, let's go for the far bookcase. I think it's supposed to be the one with the purple cover in the furthest bookcase. Alright, let's see. Seeming to take my word for it, Kid made for the case in question. Right, this is the one. Purple cover, purple cover. Aha! This has got to be it! Kid pulled a book from the bottom shelf. Magla and I watched as she opened it. Pages were hollowed out and inside was an old key decorated with strange symbols. Nailed it! Nice one, Serge! Kid snatched the key from the inside of the book. Right, time to finally get a look at this treasure. Having got what we came for, we left the study. We made our way back down the side dark passage leading to the study. Eventually we arrived back at the intersection. We're gonna go to the right branch back to the terrace. We're gonna follow the corridor, go past the mechanical room. And continue on to the locked door. And we're going to try to go inside. It's going to be locked. This should do it. Kid slipped the key we'd found into the lock. Lines of magical light flashed across the surface of the door and vanished as various magical barriers were dispelled. Up, down, left, right, blue, red, green. Every color under the sun, and then all was quiet and the darkness of the manor returned. Not gonna lie, those flashes popped on the screen and I thought we were dying. Right, we're in. With a creak, the heavy door gently swung open. As soon as I saw what was inside, I gave a gasp. Kid stepped inside. Whoa, we've hit the mother lode! Out of the darkness loomed a veritable mountain of gold, silver, priceless works of art, and exquisite trinkets. We found the dragon's hoard! Kid looked as if she was on the verge of drooling at the sight of it all, but what thief wouldn't have been? After all, this was the kind of hoard that few people would ever come across in their lifetime. The smallest fraction of the vast mound of riches would have seen even the most careless spendthrift set for life. Our goal is the frozen flame. Ignore the rest. Maggle spoke with an icy dedication to our mission. He had not even abatted an eyelid at the sight that greeted us. Yeah, I know. She was disappointed, of course, but she soon set about scanning the room for the object of our hunt. Wait, is that it? Look, on the pedestal over there! I turned to see what Kid was pointing at. There it was, a small yet perfectly formed jewel that gave off a pale red light, a jewel that looked like a flickering fire suspended in time. The frozen flame. Silently, Maggo walked towards the pedestal and called out. I called out. Wait, we have to be careful. You're right, this is Lynx we're dealing with after all, and may very well be trapped. We should be on our guard. We need to be quick about this, but fine, have it your way, grumbled Kid, looking away. Maggle examined the pedestal for a short while, then paused. We were wise to be cautious. Placing his left hand on the base of the pedestal, he muttered an incantation, drawing quick sigils in the air with his right hand. Some glyphs appeared on its smooth surface, and for a moment, blazed brightly. There. Now we can proceed. Maggo calmly reached out and grabbed hold of the red jewel. Dun 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 dun! Serge and his friends obtained the frozen flame! Phew! We managed to get what we came for without anything horrible happening to us. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned again to Maggo. He was staring silently at the jewel in his hands. Maggo, we did it! Let's get out of... Before I could finish, the frozen flame crumbled to dust. This flame was a fake. Lynx must be keeping the real one somewhere safe. What? Suddenly, a siren rang out. The room was flooded with light and metal bars slammed down in front of the door. I turned with a gasp to see Kid frozen, an ornate crown in her hands, and a wide-eyed look of awkward shock on her face. Dun 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 dun! Kid and friends obtained a golden crown too! You're kidding me, right? You had to go and... You complete bonehead! I let rip with a stream of choice insults. In my head, that is. Metallic parrots in the four corners of the room suddenly came to life, flapping their wings and screeching, "Rock! Thieves! Thieves!" We're in trouble. These things are going nowhere, said Maggle, inspecting the bars covering the door. Though to look at him, you wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong. Which way? Which way? The parrots! The parrots! To the vault! The vault! We heard voices in the distance. The manor guards were coming. Kid dived behind a pile of gold coins. Find somewhere to hide! In a panic, I looked around the room. There was a large chest sitting wide open next to a pillar. I rushed to empty it out, then plunged in headfirst and closed the lid. Captain! Captain! There's no sign of anyone in here! No sign! Strange. Peculiar. No one has ever escaped before. None have ever fled the mousetrap's clutches. None. I gently pushed up the lid of the chest and peeked through the gap. There were 5 goblins wearing suits of armor unlocking the gate and about to make their way inside. One of the goblins looked around the room, jerking his neck as he peered into the shadows. Captain, what if it was actually a mouse this time? Chef was grumbling about mouses the other day, Captain. Mouse? A rodent? A rat? Would its teeny tiny little thing of that like sprung the trap? Replied a stocky, plump-looking goblin, who must have been the captain. He didn't seem convinced. That was when I heard a strange but oddly familiar sound from a corner of the room. Squeak! Squeak! It was coming from where Kid was hiding. Startled, the troop of goblins stopped and looked at each other. For a moment, none of them spoke. Eventually, the Captain Goblin rubbed his chin through his jowls and offered his thoughts. Mouses? I'm sure the chef was complaining about cats. Meow! Meow! That voice again. Again, silence. The goblins only looked at each other. Fucking Kid, you're trying too hard. Funny you should say that, Captain. Why, I heard it. It weren't mouses or cats, it was a hecarim. Oh god. What noise is she gonna make this time? Hecarim was like the one boss in Chrono Trigger that we fought in the magical cave that had like the big ass claw that like was resistant to everything but magic. That like roared. An awkward silence followed. In my mind's eyes, I could see Kid racking her brains to work out what a hecarim was. I smell a rat, by which I mean a thief. Following the captain's lead, the guards reached for their weapons, and then... Either these goblins are smart or just forgetful. Yeah, Zeronis, I believe they're smart. I think they were, like, trying to get Kid out herself. Heck! Heck, heck, heck! Heck, 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 heck! Heck, 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 heck! Ren, ren, hecarim! Listen, it really is a hecarim! By heck, that proves it! The goblin guards grinned and nodded to each other. Kid, she might be a good thief, but she's a fucking idiot. She literally just fucking Pokemon'd a fucking hecarim. Like, really? Cheeky little devil, surprised me there. Let's get out of here, boys! The goblins filed out of the vault. I breathed a sigh of relief. And then they came charging back in again with a mighty roar. There's no such thing as hecarims! What? You snaky little buggers! Roared Kid, leaping out from behind the pile of gold coins. You're one to talk, thief! Brandishing their weapons menacingly, the goblins moved slowly forward, forcing Kid into a corner. I quietly eased open the lid of the coffer and slipped out. Can't leave you anywhere, can I? I muttered to myself. I knew Kid could handle herself, but I didn't fancy her odds against a whole troop of heavily armed goblins. For a moment I wasn't sure to do, but then I made up my mind. Oh, I can totally just fucking leave her? No, we gotta save Kid. Right, I had to save Kid. There was no way I was gonna abandon a friend in need. Even if it meant facing off of a group of 5 goblin guards, I'd find a way to come out on top. I hoped. I drew the knife from my belt and leapt in the middle of the room. Hey, snot for brainses! Over here! The goblins all turned to look at me at the same time. 10 beady, cruel little eyes all staring daggers at me. Fool! In a hurry to die, are we? I gulped and wondered if making a run for it might have been the better plan of action after all. Ah, humans are so stupid! The goblin captain chuckled and licked his teeth. Yep, this one's got a death witch all right. Why else would he be so stupid as to come after Lord Lynx's treasure? Ha, that's a first, being called dumb by a bloody goblin. Try acting tough when you're crying to your mum later on. Judging my kid's response, she wasn't feeling massively threatened. And you tell her it was Kid who you kicked your teeth in. So you're Kid, are you? The sneaky little slippery little thief we've heard so much about. The goblin narrowed his eyes. Lord Lynx will be thanking me from now on until my retirement when I bring him your head on a silver platter. The goblin captain pulled his morning star from his waist and started swinging. You don't know who you're messing with. We ain't no ordinary goblins, sweetheart. We're Lord Lynx's elite guard. The goblins that gobble other goblins. That's right, the Gob Squad. Ah, quit shitting your mouth off and let me stick a boot in it. And with that launch, Kid launched into a lightning-fast spinning kick. Her boot connected with the side of a goblin's head with a crack, sending the creature tumbling to the ground. Get him, lads! Boy looks scrawny! Start with him! The goblin captain spun the heavy metal ball of his morning star in the air. Glorious glove strike! Aye, aye! The goblins charged across the room and responded to their captain's command. Oh, these goblins are big! Goblin strike incoming! A goblin rushed towards me, swinging its weapon overhead. I wasn't gonna make it! Shit, I didn't read fast enough. The morning star swept sideways through the air. I twisted my body to evade it, only for my torso to erupt in pain. Before I knew it, I was sent rolling across the floor in agony. Sarge, get up! Spurred on my kid's screen, I staggered to my feet, clutching my side. Where the fuck is Magil? I couldn't let it end like this! Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! With a growl, it sent its morning star swinging from above. Jumped up for a counterattack. Better off attacking than trying for a clumsy dodge. It tackled the goblin head-on, and bounced helplessly off its enormous rock-like body, smashing headfirst into the floor. The shock of the impact jolted through my body. Gob strike incoming! Goblin rushed towards me, swinging its weapon overhead. I swiftly dodged the attack. The morning star brushed past my cheek. I don't know how, but I managed to escape unscathed. Lost my balance, though, and fell clumsily to the floor. Kid lashed out with a lightning-fast kick. There's more where that came from! Please have mercy! The stricken goblin had collapsed to the floor, its eyes wide with fear. This isn't a game, Surge! Watch yourself, will ya? Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! With a growl, it sent its morning star swinging from above. Roll away. I rolled across the floor, dodging the attack. The morning star crashed into the flagstone, splitting sparks flying. That was a close shave. I made good my escape by rolling further, clumsily putting some distance between myself and my attacker. Gob strike incoming! A goblin rushed towards me, swinging its weapon overhead. I readied myself to parry. I was just about managed to push my enemy's attack aside and tried to strike back with my knife, landing a heavy blow right in the goblin's unguarded flank. The goblin's face crumpled in agony. Another goblin hesitated for just a moment, only to be run through by a spear of pure lightning conjured up by Magil. The goblin let out a blood-curdling howl as electricity coursed through its body. It clutched awkwardly at its chest where it had been struck, its face contorted in agony and horror. Magil's cape fluttered, and his piercing eyes stared coldly at his victim. None who defy me shall escape my wrath. Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! Growl sent the morning star swinging from above. Rolling away. It seems like I need to roll from the morning stars and strike the others. The morning star crashed into the flagstone, sending sparks flying. It was a close shave. I made good my escape by rolling forward, clumsily putting some distance between myself and my attacker. Gob strike incoming! This one I can parry. Yep. Oh, only for the goblin to knock my attack back with a flick of its brawny arm and send me crashing to the ground. Ugh! The shock sent a flash of bright white light singing through my head. Magil conjured up a black wind would surge forth like a shearing tempest. How does a human know a spell like that? Who are you? The goblin was quickly silenced as the rushing winds tore through it, and it collapsed to the floor with a final shriek. Magil looked down at his victim, his expression unchanged. Another goblin flew down overhead. Bombs away! The girl sent his morning star swinging from above. Let's try to counterattack this one. I tackled the goblin head-on, and bounced helplessly. Okay, yeah, I can't tackle them. Okay, I'm gonna parry this gob strike. I just about managed to push my enemy's attack and tried to strike back with my knife, only for it to knock away my attack with a flick of its brawny arm and send me crashing to the ground. Bright light singing through my head. Magil does another black wind. Okay, that's 5 dead, right? Long live Lynx! Glory to the Gob Squad! With these final words, the goblin collapsed. That was the last of them. We made it. Apparently I'm only good enough to parry one attack. Huh, piece of cake, said Kid, putting a brave face on things as she wiped the sweat from her brow with her arm. Then she stopped and looked at me. Surge, what were you thinking, you great drongo? Getting the goblins to come after you like that? You really didn't have to, you know? Still, thanks. Can't say I wasn't happy to see a crazy hoss jump in like that. She was actually smiling at me. Kid's smile kindled a light inside me, and with it a peculiar warmth that came in ripples. And then Maggle stepped in. Save the chatter for later. Can't waste any more time here. The frozen flame must be somewhere else in the manor. Alright, mate, thanks for stating the obvious. It's not my bloody fault that Lynx has to make things so bloody difficult for everyone. Kid spun on her heel and made a sulky-about face for the door. Suddenly, her attention returned to the pile of defeated goblins. This bunch of Drongos said they're Lynx's elite guard, right? Betcha they've got some nice loot on them. With that, she started unceremoniously rummaging through the fallen captain's pockets. She was like a hyena, sniffing for scraps. Hello, hello, what's this? She'd found an odd metal plate. It resembled an open hand and was covered in runes. Reckon this might open some other magic door somewhere. Well, never know where it might come in handy either. Finders keepers. The plate vanished into Kid's pocket. Yeah, you're right, Zeronis. This is 150% a D&D campaign where Surge is the new player who's just trying to do their best, but has not optimized their character even slightly. Maggill's the power gaming sorcerer who just wants to kill shit. And then Kid is the fucking chaotic neutral rogue who doesn't give a shit about anything. Looks like there's nothing else worth taking unless you count pocket lint and bits of string. She rose to her feet and looked around the room. You know, it's a real shame to leave the rest of this old loot just sitting here unloved. Suppose we can come back for it whenever. Kid turned to face us and flashed a grin. Alright, lads, let's get it moving. It ain't gonna be dark forever. That hand-shaped plate is our only clue for now. Oh, that hand-shaped plate is our only clue for now, muttered Magill, seemingly to himself. And with that, we left the vault in search of the real frozen flame. The corridor outside the room stretched off to the left and right. Out to the right led to the terrace, the left went to the staircase. Back to the terrace, back downstairs. Rattle. Kid stopped us. There's something there. Listen carefully. Okay, so it's another random skeleton encounter. It's a skeleton! We readied ourselves for a fight. What was I going to do? Attack! Come on then! I leaped at the skeleton. It lashed out with its sword. Blood dripped from my face. The tip of the blade had scratched my cheek. Ugh. I'm poisoned, aren't I? It was more than I could take. I was finished. And that was how I died. Yo, what? Really? Okay, apparently we have an unspoken of health gauge. Alright, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting death in a text-based adventure that just restarts the game. Oh, there's apparently save files if I hit the start button. Okay. Okay, let's get through this. We gotta catch back up. Should be able to do this relatively quickly. Because, so one thing that I know is if we go into that one room, we can see the old lady to heal us. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave that room untouched. And go straight for the key. I was not expecting that at all. I also didn't realize I could save. So that kind of sucked. Alright, I actually want to do something real quick. We're gonna save. I don't know how to reload. I just want to see how creepy the thing is if I ask about kids' measurements. Because the game seems to be pandering to wondering about the system. So, my desire for this terrible, terrible idea, we're going to ask it about kids' measurements. I want to know kids' measurements, I blurted out. The wind was immediately knocked out of me by one of Kid's trademark kicks. Look, the mirror is showing us something, muttered Magill, thoughtfully pointing at it. Kid, who was sitting on my back and bashing my head into the ground, stopped what she was doing and glanced up at the mirror. I looked up as well. Watery ripples flowed from the center of the glass, and then a series of numbers began to float up from below. 5, 2, 7, 5? While I was reading the numbers, Kid mashed her hand into my face. Who told you to look, creep? I had no idea what the figures even meant, though. Kid seemed confused as well. It was up to Magill to explain it in his usual deadpan manner. Her height, shoe size, and ring size. That was it? Was that it? I felt so cheated. Wait, that's not what I meant, I started. But the mirror had fallen silent and didn't seem to be listening anymore. The spirit of the mirror appears to have moved on, muttered Magill. Really? Huh, what a waste, I grumbled. Kid glared at me, her arms folded. Well, now that you know me measurements, you won't have any trouble finding me some new clothes, a pair of boots, and a pretty ring to say sorry when we're out of here, eh? You owe me, and you better not forget it. I'd really gone and dropped myself in it this time. Anyway, Mirror's not listening anymore, reckon we're done here. Sighing, I left the room, trying to work out how much of my cut I'd wasted before we'd even stolen anything. That's terrible. Oh, so since there's a save file, it doesn't go automatically into the game, it asks for a load. Okay, that's good, that's good. We can save progress now. I wasn't okay, yeah, I feel like a dumbass for not realizing that on the first playthrough, but yeah. Okay. We're back to the shadows shining with light. And we can ask it about the key again. Alright. Where is the key to the vaults? You know where the key to the vault is? Mirror's reflection rippled and changed to reveal a room with numerous bookshelves. A deep, sonorous voice spoke. You will find the key in the place I have revealed, the study. It is inside a book with a purple cover in the furthest bookshelf from the door. Members of the study vanished from the mirror, and the voice went silent. Appears the spirit has left for another mirror to the study then. Beware, he knows. Yep, so now we can go back to the study. I think I'm actually going to go to the atrium first. Because the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, I do not need to go to the vault. I don't know if it will trigger something once I've been to the vault, but I don't need to go to the vault, so I'm going to go to the atrium first. Oh, I just realized. The second option in Radial's room, other than looking at the music box, was to go through her drawers. I have a feeling it's going to be creepy if I do. Yeah, we're just going to continue. Alright, to the atrium. Kid poked her head through the arch-shaped door and took a look around. Huh, it's big in here. Must be some kind of hole. We took a cautious look around and then entered, one after another. The atrium was like a beautiful plaza, complete with a statue that doubled as a fountain. Pillars and arches lined the walls, and in the center was a small pool of clear water above which the statue stood. On the other side of the room, I could see another arched entrance like the one we had come through. Ooh, that's cold! Kid was scooping up water from the fountain. I went over to her and, resting my hand on the edge of the marble basin, peered into the pool beneath. Shadows flickered under the water's surface. You reckon those fish are rare, as in valuable? Kid leaned right over the edge. I couldn't see the bottom. I wondered how deep it was. The shadow of one of the fish grew larger and larger. Whoa! Sensing danger, Kid leapt back from the edge. Clack! A fish leaped out from the water and snapped at her, its jaws bristling with razor-sharp teeth. Its mouth closed shut on the air where she'd only been moments before, and with a splash, the fish darted back under the water. Pteranodons! Deadly, carnivorous fish with razor-sharp teeth and powerful jaws that could snap a monster's horn in half. Staring in horror, I watched as dark shadows began to gather in what little of the pool I could make out. The pteranodons must have detected prey. Soon, the room was filled with the sound of splashing and snapping as the fish teemed at the water's surface. Bloody hell! Even Kid was uneasy. She took another step back. How many pteranodons were in the pool? Thought of what would happen if they all leapt clear of the water and attacked all at once crossed my mind. A bead of cold sweat rolled down my forehead. Suddenly, the water coming from the statue turned crimson and shot out in a powerful jet that nearly touched the ceiling. Kid jumped back again. I just stood in shock watching the torrent of water erupting from the statue. The scarlet waters continued to gush out from the fountain. The pool grew redder and started to overflow. We looked on entranced. The spell was soon broken when we realized that the water was starting to flow faster and faster over the trim of the basin. Rim. The pteranodons began to jump and snap at the water's surface with bloodthirsty glee. I was brought to my senses by the dull slapping of pteranodons hitting the floor. Let's run to the other side. Quick, there's an exit on the other side! Pointed at the opposite from where we'd come in. I tried my hardest to rush across the red pool, sending up thick gouts of crimson water. It was thick as blood, and I found myself struggling to move. I felt sharp jabs of searing pain as countless pteranodons stabbed at my legs. Kid gritted her teeth in pain. Surge, we've got to do something before we get turned into mincemeat! What was I gonna do? We gotta deal with the fish. What? You wanna try to pick this little lot off one by one? Kid glared at me, her face a picture of exasperated disbelief. Don't be a bloody idiot, Surge, you wanna die here? While I stood there, my mouth agape, a pteranodon sank its teeth into my foot. Delta pain surged up my leg, making me jump. What was I gonna do? I mean, let's keep going for the fucking exit. We have to get to the other side. We desperately tried to wade through toward the exit opposite us. The water was already up to my waist. A strange smell like warm meat rose from the water's surface. Ah! I yelped as my left thigh and right ankle simultaneously erupted with pain. It was still a long way to the exit on the opposite side. What was I gonna do? Keep going. I'm probably gonna die. That's right, those fish weren't gonna stop me. We desperately tried to wade toward the exit opposite us. It was already up to my waist. Strange smell like warm meat, countless pteranodons were tearing at my legs, and the bites burned like fire. Still a long way to the exit. Okay, I have a feeling I'm gonna die now. Yeah, because it's like... It's not letting me go across. I lost my footing and crashed face first into the water. Red haze drifted down to fill my eyes. And a swarm of hungry pteranodons all piled in at once. Kid's screams grew more and more distant as my consciousness plummeted into a bottomless darkness. You are dead. Okay. We died again, but this time we can continue from our save. Alright, we just gotta get the key information again. We're gonna save after that. So the atrium is the only place that I didn't investigate yet. I'm just trying to think. When we finish the vault, we get the square piece. But I haven't seen anything that would use that on. I have no idea what it could possibly be at all. Alright. Yeah, we have no reason not to go straight to the... She's like, I'm pretty sure we've been in every single room. Suddenly, the darkness felt opaque. Something like a thick haze floated in the air in front of us. And then it took form like someone blowing smoke into a person-shaped bottle. It was robed in a ragged shroud, and its sunken eyes glinted menacingly. It was the burning hatred that lingers even after death-given form. A being driven by hatred for all living things. A ghost. Bugger, that's us out. Kid bit her lip. There wasn't anything she or I could do to deal with an enemy that had no physical body. A voice boomed out behind me. Magil had already begun casting a spell. Let's jump behind Magil! Magil cast me a glance, continuing his incantation without missing a beat, and then grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and threw me at the ghost. I emitted a strangled scream of horror that I'd probably never be able to repeat again, and tried to brace myself before I crashed face first into the wall. But the impact I was expecting never came. The core of the ghost, where its face seemed to be, had more substance than the rest of it, and I didn't just slip through it like I thought I would. I oozed through it like I was stuck in some kind of goo? Ye gods, it was disgusting. More disgusting than anything I'd ever known. It was impossibly cold. I felt like it was draining all the heat right out of my blood. Like it was draining my life force itself, in fact. I struggled to break free, but I could find no purchase in the gooey ectoplasm. The coldness became more and more intense, and soon I didn't even know what cold meant anymore. This could be it for me, I thought. I was consumed by despair. Then there was a surge of heat through the muscles of my neck in the place where Magil had grabbed me just a moment before. At the same time, his incantation echoed in my mind, and my vision was filled with a clear blue light. Did Magil just use me as a bomb? Surge! Oi, Surge! Still with us, mate? Someone was slapping me across the face. Someone who seemed to be enjoying it immensely. Kid! Stop it, damn you! I leapt to my feet, wide awake again in an instant. Mag, did you really have to use me like that? When dealing with foes who attack the mind, it is simplest to lure them in with bait. Then use their intended prey's consciousness as a conduit, in order to make an assault from the astral plane. A direct magical attack would have meant a lengthy battle. A far less elegant solution, he replied without a trace of guilt. Alright, let's keep moving. Kid gave the order to continue, seemingly completely oblivious to my brush with death. I was doing great. I felt like nothing could Excuse me, what the fuck did I just... I legitimately don't know what the hell just happened there. That was... We literally... I literally just got fucking chucked into a fucking ghost and used as a bomb, essentially. Like, what? Like, how does that even make sense? Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna go along with it. That's probably one of the most ridiculous things that I've seen in a while, but I'm good with it. I'm fine. I'm not... I had to take the opportunity to escape, like a coward! Oh nuts, what was I gonna do? The guards looked even meaner than your average goblin, and they clearly weren't taking any prisoners. I decided that I was better off leaving Kid and Magil to it while I snuck outside and kept an eye on things from a safe distance. Goblins had left the door wide open. Luckily for me. I tiptoed quietly towards it, but just then... Boy, Serge! Where do you think you're going, mate? You ain't running away to try to save your own sorry hide, are you? I trembled as I slowly looked behind me and saw all the goblins staring back at me with their beady little eyes. I suppose she never was the type to nobly sacrifice herself in order to let a friend escape to safety. Which meant it was time for me to face the music. I drew my knife from my belt and turned to face the goblins. Alright. Time to fight. Oh yeah, that was all the same afterwards. Alright. So, the first one I'm definitely dodging. Gob strike incoming! Dodge the attack. Swiftly dodged the attack, the Morningstar brushed past my cheek. I don't know how, but I managed to escape unscathed. Lost my balance though and fell clumsily to the floor. Another goblins hesitated for just a moment, only to be run through by a spear of pure lightning conjured up by Magill. Goblin let out a blood-curdling howl as electricity coursed through its body. Clutched awkwardly at its chest where it had been struck, its face contorted with agony and horror. Magill's cape fluttered and his piercing eyes stared coldly at his victim. None who defile me shall escape my wrath. Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! The growl sent its Morningstar swinging from above. I rolled away. Rolling across the floor, dodging the attack, but it wasn't fast enough. The iron bar crashed straight into my back. I let out a howl as the force of the impact jutted through my body. I never felt such raw pain in my entire life. I rolled on the floor in agony. Ha ha ha! Dance for me, boy! Let me hear you sing! As I crawled on the floor, the shadow of the goblin towered over me like a black mountain. Die, brat! Its lips curled around its fangs in a leering grin, and it raised its weapon over its head. Oh, no you don't! You'll have to get through me first! The kid lashed out with a lightning-fast kick. There's more where that came from! Please have mercy! The stricken goblin collapsed to the floor, its eyes wide with fear. This isn't a game, Surge! Watch yourself, will you? I was spinning when I managed to take the opportunity to rise to my feet. Gob strike incoming! I readied myself to parry the attack. Just about to push the enemy's attack aside and tried to strike back with my knife, landing a heavy blow right in the goblin's unguarded flank. The goblin's face crumpled in agony. The kid lashed out with a lightning-fast kick. There's more where that came from. Please have mercy! The stricken goblin collapsed to the floor, its eyes wide with fear. This isn't a game, Surge. Watch yourself, will you? I did good that time. What the hell? Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! The growl sent a Morningstar swinging from above. He jumped up for a counterattack. Better off attacking than a clumsy dodge. I tackled the goblin head-on. Literally, I smashed my skull into the goblin's grim visage as hard as I could. Shock ran through my head and shoulders like I'd been brained with a hammer. It was worth it. Teeth and spittle flew left and right as the great ugly brute rolled stunned across the floor. Long live Lord Lynx! Glory to the Gobswad! With these final words, the goblin collapsed. That was the last of them. We made it. So I only took one hit that time, whereas I feel like I took like 3 or 4 the last time. Huh, piece of cake. Surge, you were really gonna run away and leave us deal with all those goblins ourselves, weren't you? What? No, that was just part of my cunning strategy. Flustered, I fell back on plan B. Deny everything. I was planning to take advantage of the confusion to grab the frozen flame. Of course I wasn't going to abandon you. Uh-huh. That didn't go down well. Kid glared at me with a look that could have killed a man. And then Magill stepped in. Save the chatter for later. We can't waste any more time here. Frozen flame must be somewhere else in the manor. Alright, mate. Thanks for stating the obvious. It's not my bloody fight that Lynx has to make things so bloody difficult for everyone. Just spun about her heel and make a sulky about-face for the door. Phew, made it. That was a close one. Kid would never have forgiven me if I'd run from that fight. Suddenly your attention turned to the pile of defeated goblins. This bunch of Drongos said they're Lynx's elite god, right? Bet they've got some nice loot on them. And so, yes. She finds the odd metal plate. Resembling an open hand covered in runes. I think I need to go into the fucking study again now. Just because there was a bunch of plates on the wall. Okay, so I could get a heal from the old lady in this room once I have that conversation. I think I'll make a separate save file right here, but I'm not going to do it yet. Gonna get back to that intersection and go to the study. Suddenly, the darkness felt opaque. We got another skeleton, not skeleton, a ghost. And I'm going to do just like I did last time and jump behind Magil so he can chuck me. It's like really weird, but like I still seemed fine the time before whenever I did that, so I'm good with it. Like, yes, freeze me for a little bit and then use me as a freaking explosion to kill the enemy. It's almost like he decides to like he knows that the ghost is gonna deal negative energy to me, or like sap energy from me, so like he just like fills myself with a huge amount of positive energy so it sucks death into itself. Alright, how do I feel? I was starting to feel a little worse for wear. I was gonna have to be careful from now on or this was gonna end badly. Well, that was another fine bloody mess. What do we even bring you for, Serge? Kid's cold stare pierced through me like a javelin made of ice. And yeah, we're gonna go inside the study because it's the only thing I can think is this plate. Okay, no. Straight up just told me to go fuck myself, essentially. So yeah, let's take the left branch that we haven't taken yet. We continued onward, past the stairs and the side passages emerged into the main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. I don't know if I've done this one yet. Kid pushed gently on the heavy doors open and peeked inside. Doesn't look like anyone's in here. Oh yeah, this is the main hall. With massive tables, the decorations, the sculptures of birds and beasts, and the pipe organ. But yeah, so like, there was nothing to do in this room before. So there's the spike room, there's the clock tower, there's the fish room, and then there's... I guess I could try to go back to... whatchamacallit? Lynx's room. I'm gonna try Riddle's room, see if there's something else that we can find inside the dresser. Because it seems to be the only, like, rational option I can think of. Oh, was that there last time? A half-written letter on the desk and a teacup still warm suggested the lady of the manor was still near. A window was slightly ajar, bringing in some much-needed fresh air. It seemed like someone had been here only moments ago. Let's come back later. We left Riddell's room for now. So there seems to be some amount of time progression. Like, I missed the whole, like, the girl showing up at the study this time. I don't know if there's any reason to go to Lynx's room this time, but... So this is where you've been hiding, Lynx? Yelled Kid as she barged into the room. What, is Lynx here? I followed after her, panicking. I looked around to see no one but us. Where is he? Kid was just standing there, clearly not in any danger at all. It was a joke, idiot. All the strength drained from my body. Thought I was serious, did ya? Chuckled Kid, trying not to laugh too hard. I bet you wish you were living the easy life rather than traipsing around after me, eh? Your face! I ignored her and walked over to the mirror draped with the red silk cloth. Hi there. Sorry about all the noise. The statue of Venus in the mirror giggled back at me. That's quite alright, Serge. What is your desire? Came her husky alto. Okay. I've been voice like they described it as a deep sonorous voice before, so I thought like a bass tone. But no, it's a husky alto, which I'm not entirely certain how I would. Nothing much, just thought I'd check up on you since I was here. You mustn't say such things. Your friends will become envious. She giggled mischievously. You what? Said Kid, her voice completely flat. And why would I be envious? Please, there is no need to get upset. I have a gift for you. Oh, yeah? Yes, well, one might call it that. You see, I thought you might be interested to see what it is like inside the mirror. Wait, so you're inviting us to the realm of mirrors? Kid's interest was suddenly piqued. It won't take up much of your time. Come, Kid. Step inside. The surface of the mirror rippled like water. Kid reached out her hand toward the glass, then hesitated. She deliberated for a moment before finally pulling it back. You go first, Serge. You're her favorite. Are you sure? Kid nodded, and, filled with excitement, I pressed my hands to the mirror. The surface was like cool water on my fingertips. No, Serge, you mustn't! Suddenly, cracks formed in the glass. I gasped. What's happening? The statue in the mirror was weeping. I wish you weren't so trusting. You forgot that I serve Lynx. What? I blurted out. I meant to trap you and your friends. Cracks in the mirror grew bigger, splintering off into more and smaller cracks. And that is not all. I foresaw your coming long ago, and warned Lynx of it. But why? You were imprisoned here by Lynx, weren't you? Sighed Magill. The statue of Venus nodded mournfully. He sealed the path to mirrors beyond, preventing me from leaving the manor. Were someone to shatter all the mirrors from within the manor's walls, I would be doomed. I would vanish, separated from my siblings forever. Eventually, the shadow raised its head. Statue. But I cannot stand to be at his mercy anymore. The cracks deepened further, and shards of glass began to fall to the floor. Stop! I can't let you do this! I yelled, grabbing the mirror frame with both hands. This is what I want. Lynx will not suffer me to live after betraying him, said the image in the mirror, looking at me. But why are you trying to help us? Will that be your final question, Serge? Something in its voice felt like the trace of a smile. Very well. The truth is, But just then, the mirror finally split from top to bottom. The image's lips moved gently, but no words came. I tried to scream, but I could do little more than whimper. I took a shard of glass from the floor and gripped it tightly in my hand. Serge? Behind me, Kid was softly calling my name. I gave a slight nod, and slowly turned around. Let's go. As we left the room, I tried to look back one last time, my eyes coming to rest on the remains of the mirror. I'd never be able to hear her voice again. I turned again and left the room. Alright, we killed a mirror person. I don't know if that was a good thing to do, but Yeah. Let's go back inside Radial's room. So we know the loved things. Richly furnished and yet still felt awfully lonely. The teacup is still warm, the fresh air, the leaf blowing in, and then we're gonna decide not to stay. Okay, so I do have to come to Radial's room, but later, not now. So, I'm trying to think of what's next on the agenda. I've got this mysterious plate, and I don't know what for. So I'm gonna go into the atrium. I know it's gonna be the statue again. Yeah, so it fills in, the fish are rare, we find out that they're piranodons. And then the statue is going to activate and start filling the room with blood, essentially. And I'm going to have to flee. It's the only thing I can think that is proper to do in this scenario. We rushed back the way we came! Kid, let's get out of here! In a panic, we splashed through the water back to the corridor we came from. Thanks to the piranha stepped on my legs and I felt a searing pain, but I had to endure it if I had any hope of reaching the entrance. Breathing heavily, I finally found myself back in the corridor outside. Phew, that was a close call. The whole thing was a trap, eh? Talk about twisted. Lynx is more of a sick bastard than I thought. I was about to say he wouldn't have to be if he didn't have to guard against people like her breaking into his home, but I thought better of it. Well, at any rate, we can consider that a dead end. Let's go back. Defeated, we left the atrium. Something caused Kid to stop in her tracks. Hello, hello, what do we have here? She pointed to the side of the entranceway to the hall. Found myself face to face with a sculpture of an old man's face with a truly phenomenal beard. The sculpture's eyes seemed to gleam with life. For a piece of marble, it seemed almost too realistic. It's a mouth of truth, announced Magill. An enchanted statue that can tell when you're lying. If it catches you out, it'll bite your hand off. Magill kept his explanation simple so that Kid wouldn't drift off before he got to the important part. Huh, so what's it doing here, then? I suspect it's part of a greater mechanism. Stick your hand in its gob, do ya? Righto, let's see what happens, shall we? With the mischievous glint in her eye, Kid darted over and stuck her hand in its mouth without a moment's hesitation. She stood there for a moment waiting, but it didn't take long for her to get bored. Huh, nothin'. Suddenly, I had an idea. Hey, Kid, who's the greatest thief who ever lived? Me, of course, you're drunk! Kid answered without a moment's hesitation, and then suddenly her face twisted with pain. The teeth of the marble sculpture had clamped down on her hand. It bit me! She cried. Knock it off! Everyone knows it's the truth. Ow! The sculpture bit her again as soon as she spoke. You little... Cold sweat formed on Kid's forehead. The sculpture was tightening its grip. It won't let go till you say something true. Despite the obvious urgency of the situation, Magill was matter-of-fact as ever. Just say anything, Kid. Anything, as long as it's the truth. Obviously, Kid wasn't listening. Instead, she just kicked awkwardly at the statue. Oi, Beardy, let me go, me bloody hand! She planted her feet on either side of the mouth and tried her hardest to pull herself out. She heaved, kicked and stamped, grunted and strained. And then finally her hand popped free. I was taken aback by what I just witnessed and couldn't say a word. See? Told you it was the truth! Kid raised her hand in the air triumphantly as to demonstrate. I could see heavy bite marks. Sculpture hadn't come away from the struggle unscathed either. Kid's attempt to break free had left it cracked in several places. Maggle pointed silently at part of it. I went to take a closer look and I saw a pale, flesh-colored tongue. I expect we're supposed to put something there, commented Maggle. Something? What, exactly? I replied. Kid stood there for a moment, lost in thought, and then she started to unload all the knickknacks she'd been carrying. It was a strange collection of odds and ends, pulled out from her pockets, her boots, and even from her braid. Alright, Serge, now it's your turn to have a go at that stupid statue. Kid grinned at me, holding her assortment of knickknacks out the palms of both hands. Guess she decided that whatever further horrors the statue had in store, she'd rather not face them herself. Nice, kid. Real nice. Grumbling to myself, I reached out to pick an item. I chose... I'm gonna save right here. Why would it be something from outside the castle? It's obviously going to be the plate if it's anything. Took the hand-shaped metal plate we found. After taking another look at the runes, I was no closer to working out what they might mean. Here goes nothing. I stuck the plate into the mouth of Truth's marble maw. As soon as I did so, its eyes rolled upward and the wall gave a light judder. A low rumbling sound came from the sculpture's mouth. This indeed is the ultimate truth of the universe. Did you hear something? Yeah. I watched the mouth of Truth in confusion. Its great marble tongue lolled out almost like a snake. It coiled around the plate, seizing it and pulling it deep inside. What's going on? In a panic, I looked to Maggle for answers. Seems this ineffable truth of the universe has left even the mouth of Truth tongue-tied. Maggle answered in his usual deadpan manner. I think he might have been even trying to make a joke. Hang on, so that plate thingy revealed the truth of the universe? And you went and crammed it down Betty's gut? Do you realize how much we could have sold that for? Kid kicked the floor in frustration and snapped her fingers. And then, drains on all sides of the room suddenly opened wide. The red water formed eddies as it sank away. Helpless, the pteranodons were washed away with the current. Soon only trickles of water were left, slowly dripping away. Well, that's a stroke of luck, ain't it? Guess we won't be sleeping with the fishes tonight, grinned Kid, looking at the empty pool. We crossed the drained room, making for the exit on the other side, and pressed on. I love how I retreated backwards, and it revealed something that we never saw before that fixed the drain. That encounter didn't make any sense. Suddenly, Kid stopped in her tracks. Something's there. Quickly looked around to see what it was. There was nothing behind us or in front of us. Where could it be? And then, just as I was trying to figure it out, the wall began moving. Ah, we got more goblins. You goblins! Screamed Kid. They definitely look like goblins to me, maybe a touch on the large side. There are 4 in total, 2 in front of us and 2 appear behind us, cutting off path to escape. Maggle goes to the back, Kid goes to the front, I go to help Kid. Yeah, Kid runs around, does the flip, goes crazy. And then it's gonna swing, I'm gonna jump back. And then we're gonna dodge, kick it in the face, and plunge our knife into its heart. Because that works. And then leap backward. And then Maggle saves me. The encounters are very formulaic and like... Because it's not really a combat system, it's more like a choose-your-own-adventure. Okay, so the atrium stretches off left and right at this point. I'm going to go ahead and save it here. And this is actually where we're going to end for the night. This is, as normal, about the time we end the stream. And as such, that's all the time we have for tonight. So yeah, being that that's all the time we have for tonight, we will see everybody on the next episode, I'm thinking, I don't know how long this is going to be. It seems to just be all wrapped up in this one event, from what I've heard online. So I'm thinking there can't be too terribly much more to it. We should be able to get through it in the next week, I think. And hopefully, yeah, we'll manage to knock that out. Um, Till then, this is very interesting. It's it it's definitely something that I'm definitely trying to keep. It's not super long from what you know. That yeah, that seems to be about what I've echoed as well. I know. So there is a scene that we'll see that happens in the beginning of Chrono Trigger, that is kind of instance in itself from the rest of the story, and I think it's kind of supposed to be the like this story is supposed to be like this happens and it kind of like happens in that beginning part of Chrono Trigger is the vibe that I've gotten from things I've read online. Uh because there is like a genuine like variance there in the before and after type vibes. So we'll have to see just how long this is. It's very curious. I
Skibidi boop de
really
wop.
thank you for the 17 months, Mijioto. Um yeah, we I did not expect to be able to die. It wasn't very clear and obvious about the way to save in the game and the fact that it was a thing that you had to do like just whenever you want to. Makes sense with the concept of visual novels. That's a common occurrence in visual novels. Wasn't expecting this to follow that rule. Not at all. Um so yeah, apologies for the backtracking that we had to do due to my stupidity and dying. We do still have that one place that we know that we can go to talk to the old lady who will heal me. I hope. I hope that she hasn't moved on to somewhere else. But we did have that scene the first time through. I'm hoping we can trigger it again for healing. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes down. And we'll see that next week. So, yeah, that's all I've got for right now. Hope you all have been enjoying this, and hope you've all had a good night. And we'll see you all next week. Till then, love you, stay safe, and have a great night.